Hello, Holistic Chamber of Commerce family. Welcome to today's member spotlight. I have Laurie Blanscet with me, and she asked the question, is there a fountain of youth? And we're going to talk about, or she's going to talk about, understanding hormone balancing. Before I turn it over to Laurie, I just want to share a little bit about her. Dr. Blanscet is a board-certified family and integrative medicine physician. After surviving her own medical nightmare in 2006, she studied how to optimize health for herself and her patients. She runs an integrative medical office and it says here, Murrieta, is that how you pronounce it? Murrieta, Georgia? And
California.
Optimal Youth. Oh, California, sorry. Murrieta, California, an Optimal You that works outside of insurance and offers a wide variety of services, including concierge medicine, bioidentical hormone balancing, and wellness IVs. Welcome, Laurie. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. And yeah, there are several Murrietas in the world. So
no, like I saw that, and there was no state, and like the first thing that popped in my mind is Georgia. We just had this talk about wine country in California, so I was like, wait a second, something's not connecting here.
Well, that brings us into one of the symptoms of hormone balance. A lot of people think about, night sweats, hot flashes, but hormone imbalance actually occurs in both men and women, and it can be brain fog, which you did not have, but it can be brain fog.
It's possible. I've hit the 50s, so it's like that time. Let's all be honest here.
Right, it happens. So the brain fog, the loss of focus, loss of muscle tone. Where you gain muscle and lose fat. In terms of just fatigue, where you just don't feel good, basically losing your mojo. Some people have sleep issues. There's a whole multitude of problems. And the issue is most people don't seek help unless they have the night sweats or hot flashes. But so many people have these subtle symptoms. And for men, they have a lot of those symptoms too, not the night sweats, but they often don't realize they have a hormone imbalance until they have erection issues, and then all hell breaks loose, right? But literally, I want people to understand that hormone imbalance is really a lot of symptoms, and over time, in your, basically in your 30s, late 30s, it can start as early as that, typically in your 40s to early 50s. But then if you don't balance it, what can happen is over time, you can see osteoporosis, you can see heart disease, you can even see dementia, so there's chronic diseases that can result when you don't balance the hormones.
What causes this? And I mean, I like it. It's very common for women who have hit like the pre or menopausal stage to, be familiar with this. But like in men, it's not so common. And maybe someone who's younger, like how do your hormones get all wonky to begin with?
That is a great question. And honestly, it is more complex than you realize. So a lot of it is just with age. And there's many people who theorize we age because our hormones decline. So there's a natural reduction. But also what I'm seeing is younger and younger people. And so I believe the stress that's in our world because it depletes hormones, and then also the toxins. I would say one of the biggest things are our chemicals that are in our environment. And so we do not live in the world we had even 100 years ago. And all of that just impacts our hormone balance. And the nice thing is my focus is living long, living well, and die quick. And I know that sounds horrible, but when you think about it, most people linger. Mm-hmm. And in today's world, we can balance. And what I've seen with balancing hormones is you get longer quality life. And that's the goal, and live as long as we can, as healthy as we can. But to get to the really root of why, I wish I had the answer. But my perspective is it's that combination of just aging, and then the stress and the chemicals.
Now, you talked about the fountain of youth. So I'm guessing that the correlation you're making here is that when our hormones are imbalanced, that whole like living longer principle. What about the, like, when I think of fountain of youth, I also think of like skin tone and things, outside appearance as well.
And that's great. I often forget to talk about that. But yes, skin tone, just healthy skin. When you look at people that are hormone balanced, their skin does look better, and just overall vitality, coming from the inside out. I mean, I will be 55 this year. I shouldn't say my age, but I will say. And I look back and I think, wow, from 10 years ago to now, my skin actually looks better. My health is better. And that's what you will see in people. It obviously, skin health has a lot to do with what you eat and drink and your sun exposure, how you take care of yourself. But the hormones are a big part of just looking better. Let's face it, we want to look good.
We do. And a lot of people, the outside appearance is like super important before like the inside stuff. It's like, very concerned about what we look like. But yeah, when you're healthy on the inside, it does outwardly express, and you can definitely tell just by looking at someone. So this is fascinating. And, you talk about like, this can be a very, I think, complex topic, because you talk about like bioidentical hormones, synthetic hormones, and lab values. And for someone who's not really familiar with this, they could be like, what is this? So maybe just kind of give us an overview as to like what you do with people. Like, what is the first step in this whole process?
Okay. And for people who want a more detailed, I will just quickly mention, I do have a book, Live Long, Live Well, on Amazon. It's very inexpensive. And I really go into the difference between bioidentical and synthetic, because it is complex. But the most important thing for people to realize is that if they have the symptoms and know something's not right, to seek help. But most doctors are not trained. And when you look around, you don't want to be normal. You want to be optimal, your best self. And you can't compare yourself to other people, correct? And so the first step is get your hormones evaluated and checked, but go and speak with a practitioner that is trained in hormone balancing. And you might think it's your OB-GYN or your primary care doctor, but no. I will tell you, they don't get the training in it. I did not. I had to go back to school. I had to go back and learn. So the most important thing is evaluate how you feel, and then get your hormone levels checked. I like blood. It's easy. It's inexpensive. It's accessible to people. There are some practitioners that do saliva. I find it more complicated. So find a practitioner, either online, in person, and just sit and talk to them about your symptoms and the options. That's the best way to do it. I personally like bioidentical because they're biologically, chemically the same as what your body makes. And so just know that your body's hormones do a lot of things in the body, and your cells are dependent on the specific chemical structure. So that's the basics of bioidentical.
So does someone have to like be in your area to have this done, or can you work with somebody that maybe isn't in California per se?
Yeah, I can treat people. I also have a nurse practitioner and PA who've been trained with me, who work alongside me. And all three of us can remotely treat people. We have patients all over the country. Outside of the US, no, because I couldn't send prescriptions. But even the compounding pharmacy in California I work with can ship anywhere. So if they don't have a pharmacy that can make the bioidentical hormones for them, I have access to that. So yeah, and there are physicians all over the country. You want to look for doctors or practitioners that are trained in bioidentical hormones. And that way they should understand it. But yeah, most of us can treat remotely.
That's fantastic, because I know with some licenses, like being a physician and, in my case, mental health, crossing state lines sometimes becomes a little tricky. So no, that's fabulous, because, some people live in areas where they may not find somebody who is trained You obviously saw needs, and I'm just curious. I mean, how did you get? I know you talked about like a health issue, but people like to know stories. Do you mind sharing maybe a little bit of, like why you got here really passionate
Sure.
about this topic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I actually really put it all out there in my book because I have no problem sharing. But literally in 2006, I went in for a hysterectomy. I was silly, and I had been on birth control like so many others, not thinking. And I developed fibroids. And when I went in for my hysterectomy, thinking, oh, I'll be back at work in 2 weeks. Well, no, there was a complication. They nicked my bowel. Some of that is my fault because I had actually had a ruptured appendix I worked through long, not proud. And so when they went to fix it, they nicked my bowel. I know it's kind of comical, but I ended up in and out of the hospital for about 40 days, and I was out of work for about 5 months, and I was down to 102 pounds. There's so many times I'm just amazed I lived, but that experience ended up throwing me into menopause because they ended up taking both my ovaries. And so at 38, I found myself full-blown menopause and nobody would help me. And I did not want to take estrogen because I had blood clot from the complications. And that is a risk with synthetic, not with what I do, but with synthetic. And that's what led me down the road. And I spent several years really researching, experimenting, and working on myself. And once I got myself to a good place, I started trying to help other patients. But then I realized that I can't do it within the insurance system and the traditional system. So I changed my practice in 2012, and I have not looked back. And it's a very patient-focused practice because it's not about reacting. It's about how do we get your body to the best place. So I did it for my own health. And then because I'm a physician now, it's so fun to help other women not have hysterectomies, to help couples, men and women, have more just intimate, wonderful relationships. It's amazing to see people not have the problems that I had. And that's what motivates me.
Well, I appreciate that about you because it sounds like you got into this out of like medical necessity to begin with, but this is what makes you, a very strong practitioner, and like the knowledge that you must hold in this area, even though, some people might get an extra certification. It's almost like you had so many complications that it really, caused you to dive into this and really research it and look at, all the different nuances. So yeah, that's fantastic. Not your struggle per se, but that you're here now having gotten through that experience so that you can help others, like you say, avoid hysterectomies. And I like that distinction about like synthetic and not, now, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. And especially like in menopause too, it's like, oh, here, just take some pills. We want to give you pills.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And like you said, I actually embrace what I went through because I'm so thankful for it. I truly am, because it led me to learn things I would have never learned and help people in a way I could never help. And it does give me that perspective. And it's really fun to relate to people in that way. But not everybody has that experience, and they're still great doctors. I would caution people, if they go to a practitioner, make sure that they can offer not just one modality, because there are people who sadly go to a weekend course, learn bioidenticals, and think it's this instant money. No, it takes time. You have to, you've got to look at the whole person. It's not a quick fix. And so you want a practitioner that can offer creams or capsules or pellets, and sometimes injections. There's a wide variety. And I always say, look, if all I have is a hammer, everything's a nail. But if I have a wide variety of ways that I can help people in front of me, then I can tailor it to the person that's in front of me. And that's what you want to look for. And that's what traditional medicine doesn't have. And hopefully that helps people.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. You want many tools in your toolbox. So when someone like comes to you and then you do hormone testing and you see, exactly what they need, you give them you said a bioidentical hormone. Are there other things that you do, or is this something that can really be taken care of just through supplementation?
So that's also what I teach people. As much as I love hormones and they're critical, to optimal health, they're a piece of the pie. And I've created a wellness circle and I post it in my office. I have it on my website and people are welcome to go look at that. And I try to let people know that, yeah, hormones give you that energy, that oomph, and they fill in the gap. And it's also important. I counsel people on eating healthy because anti-inflammatory foods and getting into the right foods can heal people. The exercise, the sleep, and there's other supplements like vitamin D and DIM. So there's other things you can do. And then once people are feeling better, because it's overwhelming, you have to start with something. So you get to the point where people feel better, and then you start looking at toxin avoidance and minimizing your exposure and all that. So it's kind of a lifelong, it's a lifestyle. And I'm huge, like just huge on educating people about mindset and where the mind is, because at the end of the day, let's say the most important thing is where's your mind, and you've got to create that good mindset in that morning routine and gratitude. And I believe in affirmations. And so I really, a lot of times people come to me because they are suffering physically. So fix that, but don't stop there, work on everything else. And when you do that, your life just gets better and better. And it's tweaking this and tweaking that to where you get to a place where you're living such an amazing life that you don't understand why people suffer. But it takes a process. And so I take people where they're at, and then it's baby steps. And that's, I think so many people, they just make these huge goals. Like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 2 months. It's like, no, if you do the right things, and let's get the mind and let's get the hormones and get the diet, let's work on the little things. And guess what? A year from now, you will be amazing. But more importantly, you'll stay there and you'll stop yo-yoing. And so it's really about getting that big picture for people. But you first have to get them out of the pit. And that's where a lot of the hormones are like really help to elevate. And then we take them to the next step. And that's where you really see amazing transformations.
It's like digging yourself out of the rubble and then building a new foundation. That's a lot more sturdy than before.
Yeah.
And that's so important, especially if you're on, at the younger end of the spectrum and you're finding that this hormone discrepancy is a lot related to stress and lifestyle. So if you just stopped at the supplementation piece and somebody's not changing how they're doing things, I would think at some point that's going to stop being, effective. I would think.
Yeah, it's definitely not as effective. And so the people like myself, who I really embody a whole lifestyle change, I mean, I'm reverse aging, I'm just it's wonderful. And then I have people, yeah, they're hormone balanced and they're better. But if they don't start doing the other stuff, well, yeah, you're not going to get the effects. You still will get some benefit, but not the max benefit. It's like the people who join the gym, but don't go.
Right.
It's the same thing. So, but again, I don't want people to be overwhelmed. Just realize, hey, it's a journey, one step at a time. Start with something, and then just keep moving one step forward, one step forward. And before you know it, you've walked a mile. And it's amazing.
This is fantastic. So I did put the title of your book in the chat so that people who are watching can go get that. Probably well worth the read, especially if this is something you're struggling with, because even just like looking at your questions and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, this can be confusing to someone. The lingo because you're trained and you're a physician, but for someone else, it's like, oh no, just fix me. So definitely, if this sounds like something you're struggling with, go get the book. And where can people find you? Like if someone wants to inquire about working with you, where would you like them to go?
So I have a website. It's anoptimalu.com, which you can type in. And I actually have a free newsletter. And I have a lot of blogs from the past and education. And I'm happy to help other practitioners learn how to do this and direct them as well as help, people in need. And yeah, so at the very least, get the newsletter every month. They can sign up. That's all they get once a month. I don't send a ton of stuff, they're not going to get spammed. And it's a great resource. And if they want to contact the office, there's a way on there to email the office, and sometimes simple questions I'll just answer. And if people are interested in our services, they certainly are welcome to reach out.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing a bit about your story and talking about this issue that both men and women face. I mean, who knew? Most people think this is a woman issue. So this is fantastic. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope this helps everybody.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in.